Thank you, May. Let me shake your hand. All right. Thanks for having me, May, and it's great to be here. Thanks to Talent Loves Us. I think we're going to have a great and interesting session tonight. I'm joined on the stage here with 4 very talented and experienced recruiters and hiring managers. So I'll just quickly rattle off who our panelists are tonight. And I'm not going to go into a lot of bios because you're not here to hear our bios. You're here to hear about all kinds of interesting stuff that these young folks have to say. So joining me to my immediate left, your right, is Kirill Elistradov, who is with BitTorrent.
Hello.
Thank you. Next to him is Carla Morton with Autodesk. She's a recruiter. Next to her is Beiri Maples with Salesforce. And then finally, Justin Stahl with Facebook. So some names that you should be familiar with out here on the floor tonight. So it's interesting because when May asked me to come up here and moderate, I stopped to think about the hiring that I've done. And then I even thought about, what was it like when I was a candidate right out of school? And it was a long time ago. And when I graduated from college, President Bush was in office and we were at war and I couldn't find a job and I had to go back and live at home with my mom and dad. And then 10 years later, there was another guy named Bush in office and we were at war and I couldn't find a job. But it just goes to show you things don't really change. In fact, this year, myself, as a VP of Demand Generation, I changed jobs. And let me tell you, looking for a new job really sucks. It's really hard. It hasn't changed. You got to do a lot of things that are really uncomfortable, and you have to think a little differently, and you have to go outside your comfort zone. And I hope through the wisdom of these folks up here today, we can help you guys a little bit more and maybe not repeat the mistakes maybe that we've made, but maybe make different mistakes. So that's it. The other thing I think is worth noting before I throw my first question to the panel is that I'm really pleased that you guys came out here tonight, because one of the best things you can do when you're trying to find a job and you're trying to further your career is doing networking. And you could have gone out to the bars tonight, you could have stayed at home and watched reality TV, but you came here to interact and network with people. And I think that's a very important thing. So congratulations to you guys for coming out here tonight. So I'm going to throw the first question out to the panel here. And I think I'll start with Kirill right here to my left. I want to find out about the market. The market for graphic designers, UX designers. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Are there too many positions and not enough candidates, or too many candidates, not enough positions? What do you think?
Thank you, Nick. It's an excellent question that everyone asks nowadays. And from my personal experience, I think it's definitely the job seekers market. I think there are a lot of companies that are hiring brilliant designers, whether you're coming recently from school or you're looking to change job. I think there's a place for you out there. You just have to, again, network quite a bit to find those hidden jobs. But there are a lot of jobs out there.
Carla, what do you think?
I completely agree. It's a buyer's market for you guys in the sense that I'm noticing salaries increase for you guys. And while it's still important to have a fantastic portfolio and conduct a fantastic interview, there's a lot of choices, and there's a huge support for UX designers, what I'm seeing in Silicon Valley right now.
Good.
I agree. There are a lot of companies looking for product designers, and they're understanding now the value of design. When I started as a designer, most companies didn't really know what a designer was. Now everyone wants to hire designers. So it's a great time to be a designer and look for a job.
Well, obviously, I agree with everybody here.
I just want a dissenting opinion. Come on. So no, these guys are wrong.
Yes. No, especially at Facebook in particular, we are constantly in desperate need of designers. But every single company that I've talked to and everybody that I talk to, almost every single place is exactly like that. So there's definitely a shortage, especially in San Francisco, but I think elsewhere as well.
So keep the mic over there, Jessica, because I'm going to come back around the other way. So let's talk about the process of hiring in your own company. So if you could just spend a minute talking about what does the hiring process look like at Facebook, just a minute or two, just give us a sense for what does it look like, what are the hurdles that they have to jump through, and maybe some tips and tricks of navigating your organization. And we'll come back this way.
hopefully we don't have a lot of hurdles. Every single person mostly goes through the exact same process. Whether they're a referral, we talk to them at an event, we meet students at a school, whatever. Everybody goes through the same process, which is we do 2 phone screens with them. One is just to look at the portfolio and ask questions about past work. And then we'll do a second kind of small design exercise just to sort of understand their thinking, understand their problem solving skills, interaction design skills. After that, we'll bring them on site. And when they do an on-site interview, they do a portfolio review. So they'll just do a presentation for 30 minutes, present their work, and talk about it. Then they'll meet one-on-one with 4 to 5 designers, depending on who we have available that day. And just do a variety of chats and understand where they want to go in their career, how they solve problems, how they consider design, and then we move forward from there.
Very similar process at Salesforce. So we get candidates through meetups, through referrals, through our website. Our recruiters source them through various means. And then every week, the hiring managers, we sit down for an hour and review every portfolio and resume that comes in the pipeline. And then we choose the ones that we want to talk to. Then we have 1.5 hour phone screen to kind of like understand whether there's a fit there. And then after that, we send out a take-home design exercise, and we ask everyone not to spend more than 3-4 hours on it. Some people time it exactly. Some people spend like 3 solid days on it. No discrimination against either way. And we review that, and then usually anyone who has been asked to bring a design review, design exercise gets an on-site as well. We have an on-site with a portfolio presentation and about 5 one-on-ones, and then we make a decision.
So before you pass the mic, is it a group decision? Who's the final arbiter? Who's the final decision maker of any hire at your company?
Of any hire. So basically, the phone screen is done by any of the hiring managers, whether they're hiring or not. But as we get to the interview process, it's usually the designers and the managers who are interested in that particular candidate for their team. And it's basically a little form that we all fill separately without influencing each other. We say yes, no, maybe, and then we write a little justification. Usually, we look for unanimous yes, because we don't want anyone to come in who is strongly objected to by like one person on the team. But sometimes we hire someone because the naysayer is stuck on one particular detail that might not be too critical for the hiring manager.
Okay, Carla?
So the process at Autodesk is very similar. I would say that in some cases we don't do a design exercise. Sometimes an interview is warranted just based on a portfolio and a first phone screen. But the one thing I can add for you guys, which is really important, is the style of interviewing that happens at companies you've got to be a little prepared for. So some of my groups interview in what's called behavioral interviewing, and I would suggest doing some research on that. And then there's this new trend called Who. Have any of you guys heard of Who?
No.
It's scary.
I'm scared.
It's scary. I have the book in my purse over here. I haven't read the book yet, but my understanding is that they do this. I don't even know what they call it, but it's a 3-hour one-on-one interview where they take you through your entire career history and why you left and what you think you need to learn in that situation. But it's a 3-hour process. And I happen to have 2 UX recs open at Autodesk right now, and that's the interview process that they're going to take these people through.
So if after 3 hours, if they don't break down in tears, they get the job?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to raise some stink about this with HR, but we'll see how it goes. But this is their new thing, so I just want you guys to be prepared for that. Can I?
Who?
Question?
Sure.
Yeah. They think, this is all I know. Again, this is brand new for me. They think that people can craft stories about the behavioral interview so that people are getting kind of keen on it.
So what is a behavioral interview for somebody who doesn't know?
So
What does that mean?
behavioral interview is where someone says, give me an example of a time when you had a conflict with a coworker. This is an example, right? Tell me exactly the situation. Tell me the tasks that you were assigned to, the actions that you took, and the results. And the assumption is that past behavior indicates future behavior. And it's similar with who, but you're describing the reasons why you were successful or not successful in every job. And you're describing the reasons why you left every job. And again, I don't know that much about it yet, but from what I understand, it's a long, grueling process.
So I repeat, Autodesk has openings.
But Autodesk is a fantastic place to work, so it's worth it.
Okay, awesome. Kirill?
Sounds terrifying. So, BitTorrent being the smallest company on the panel here, we have a much straightforward and kind of easygoing hiring process. So, me being the only recruiter, so every resume has to come through me, and so be nice, please, to me. So I screen people, and then I'll present the resumes that I think would be a good fit to the hiring manager. And again, being in a small company, have the luxury of actually walking to the hiring manager's desk and sit down ad hoc and talk about resumes. So, we discuss, I get feedback on the resume, yay or nay, then I'll schedule the recruiter screen, and I talk for about 15, 20 minutes just to get to meet this person and make sure that they're, normal and they're excited about the opportunity. And there's certain questions that I ask, obviously, and there's certain things that I look for. But it's a first meet and greet, and then I have an opportunity to tell them about more about BitTorrent and the positions that we have available. So that's next. After that, the people who pass my phone screen then will be scheduled for a phone interview with the hiring manager, and it's a Skype interview where it's like a face-to-face, and we ask you to walk the hiring manager through your portfolio via the video, like share your screen function in Skype or Google Hangout. So that's next, and that's about half an hour. And after that, we will bring you on site, and it's a half an hour presentation with the team where you either walk them through your entire portfolio, or you choose a specific project that you're particularly excited about, or that's relevant to the position that you're applying for, and then you break into one-on-one. So the whole process is about 3 to 4 hours, maybe 4 hours, and then usually within a day we come back to you with a decision. It's a group decision. Everybody has to be excited about you. We're very kind of, everyone has democratic, I guess. Everybody has a voice, and if there's some certain issues, and we also kind of pick it apart and look at, well, is this something that is very important to the job, or is it something that somebody can learn and such? So, and that's our process.
Sounds good. I got a question that I want to ask in a minute, but I'm going to save it for now, and it has to do with what you look for in a portfolio. But before I get to that, I want to acknowledge that we have 2 recruiters here and we have 2 hiring managers. So we're not all the same here. So recruiters are the people who are screening your resume, and the hiring managers are the people who get the resumes from the recruiters. So before I get into what you're looking for in a portfolio, I want to ask the question that I don't know the answer to this, and that is marketing and creative people. Is the bar higher in terms of their resumes and what it looks like than your normal candidates, meaning a finance person? Should your resume look like an infographic? Does that help you? Does it hurt you? One point of view is, I want to show you what I can do, so I'm going to make my resume look as beautiful as possible. The other point of view is if it goes to an HR person, they're going to throw that out because they won't understand it. So could you just, for just a second, give us your commentary on what you're looking for in the resume, and does a graphic design-oriented resume help or hurt you?
I guess I'll start. Yeah, it's a great question. I personally are big on design aesthetics myself. And as a designer, I would expect you to have a pretty looking resume, right? You don't have to know ins and outs of resume writing, but it should be visually pleasing, right? Somewhere in between, not too much, not too little, I think it's a great line. I get resumes that just like, well, I did this or I did that, and it doesn't really tell me the story. And I also get resumes that are 20 pages long, believe it or not, where you just like, line 10, first page, you're bored to death. So pick a fine line where it tells the story. Make sure you talk about your achievements and such, and try to quantify your experience as much as possible. How did your work affect the product, affect the team, affect the company, and what was your contribution? And definitely include the portfolio link, because that's what we're going to be looking at next after your resume.
Thanks.
Again, I would echo the same thing. An aesthetically pleasing resume from a designer is a must. And don't make it too creative. Don't have all your information coming in at angles. I mean, that just gets crazy. Having a portfolio link is an absolute must. Once it's clickable, makes it a lot easier. It's difficult as a recruiter if I have to go back and forth and type it in. And then I had the same hiring manager who's doing the Who approach, says he wants all the companies clickable and everything in there clickable, so that it hyperlinks out to a site. I think that's crazy, but that's his opinion.
What if I send you a resume in Microsoft Word that's just a basic Word template that's just text only? Does that get thrown out?
No, not necessarily. If it's clean, if you've chosen a nice font, if the spacing is nice, it's not bad.
Okay.
And the other thing that I'm seeing, what happens, we use an application, I think this is going to come up, called Taleo. If you just upload a text resume, it isn't quite as easy to read, believe it or not. So if you can put an attachment in there, that's important.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, as a hiring manager, we don't really pay too much attention to how the resume is written. It's important to have good spacing, good layout, but we've had infographic resumes and just simple Word resumes, and we don't really discriminate as long as it's you paid attention to it.
So spelling error, grammar error, that's bad.
Exactly.
That's going to
And
get
then
you disqualified.
you really don't, especially if you're applying to a company which already has designers or design managers. You really don't have to write things like I did wireframes, sketching, like obvious things that designers do. It's more important to just summarize what project you worked on, what the goal of the project was, what product it was. That kind of stuff is more valuable than saying that you know how to do wireframes. We know that you do, and even if you don't, we'll teach you. And I think the portfolio is the most important thing. Do not send a resume if you don't have a portfolio. Some companies will completely ignore you. Salesforce won't, but the recruiter will immediately send back an email saying, hey, where's your portfolio? The other thing is, I think it should be an online portfolio. It was okay to have a PDF of your work like maybe 5-6 years ago. Right now, there's Squarespace, the sponsor, right? Like really easy to create a very elegant portfolio website. No reason not to do it.
I would actually say the exact same thing, which is I can't remember the last time I looked at a resume, because it's generally not part of the process at that point. If I do see it, it's more a result of I care that you put the same craft and execution into a resume that you would put into your regular design work. And if you can do that, then that's enough for me to care. Beyond that, I look at your portfolio and I, again, expect that to have the same level of craft and execution that your design work would have, and you represent your work well. And other than that, I actually just want to talk to you and ask you questions. So that's way more important to me than a resume is.
So let me probe on that for a minute, Justin. So I want to know what you look for in a portfolio, and also, it's kind of like, past performance is not a guarantee of future success. So how do you probe, or how does your team probe for whether somebody actually has the skills? Because on some level, maybe we don't care what you did before, because you can't take that and use it again. How do you probe for using the portfolio and using other techniques, figuring out if somebody has the common sense or the skills to figure it out and get those other kind of skills that I'm talking about?
Yeah, so if I can split that up. So what we generally look for in the portfolio, like I said, craft and execution is a big important part of it. Some people have strengths in that area, and some people don't. Some people are better at interaction design and user experience design and product strategy. And we're actually mostly just looking for the ability to solve problems, intentionality in their decisions, They can communicate well. They say, this is what I was doing, this is the problem I was solving, this is how I solved it and why. It doesn't need to be, paragraphs and paragraphs of information. If you can get it out in a paragraph, that's fantastic. And I see it so rarely. I mostly just see like giant images of everything. But I actually really want to see you say like, hey, I was solving this problem and here's why I put this there, not just.
So in the portfolio, like some narrative about here's what I did, but here's the problem I was trying to solve, and here's how it was solved.
Yeah, intentionality is really big for us. It's just every decision that you made it on purpose. It wasn't just, because I thought it looked good, or because, that's just the way it's normally done. It's like, no, I did this intentionally and I understood the pros and cons of this decision that I made.
Okay, good. Barry, what do you think? What do you look for in a portfolio?
I
how do you
definitely
approach that
agree
stuff?
with everything. And to add to that, just remember that the hiring managers are looking at many portfolios, so they don't have time to go through all of it. So being concise and direct to the point and showing what's really what your strength is the most important thing. If you're not a good visual designer, if you're just an interaction designer, don't try to create a portfolio that's visually appealing, because you might not succeed and it's gonna show. Instead, just keep it simple, elegant, thoughtful, and then show where your strengths are. And in explaining the projects, really, we are looking at the thought process. Are you a problem solver? How do you solve your problems? How do you work with others? We get a lot of student portfolios where they have done group projects, which is awesome. I think group projects are great even in professional life, but they don't tell what part of the project is theirs. I really want to know, like, did you do the user testing, or did you do the visual design, or did you do just the wireframes? It's really important. If I can't tell that, I basically assume that, maybe they didn't do anything. So yeah, just make sure that you're emphasizing your strengths when showing off your portfolio.
Good. Carla?
Okay, so it's my job always to come up with something that no one else has said. So I would say that obviously clean design is important at Autodesk for sure. I would say also for students who don't have a breadth of experience in the professional world, if you know you're applying to a job where they want mobile experience, then come up with a project on your own. Put something in there that shows that that you know what the thought process is behind it. And as I was sitting here thinking about this, I was realizing a lot of these portfolios, you've got to scroll really deep to find the whole breadth of experience. But then some of these portfolios, and maybe it's a Squarespace template, you can kind of see a bunch of what they're doing all on the first page. So I can see you really only have about 15 seconds of a recruiter's attention.
15 seconds.
15 seconds, guys. It's a little more with designers because we've got to look at your portfolio, but we're not digging that deep. So if I can see everything that you've done on the first page, and I know that you've done web and that you've done mobile and that, you know what I mean? That's best.
Good. What do you think, Kirill?
I don't have much to add. I think I agree with all.
It's the problem with
the
going
panelists,
last.
but I'm not a designer, so I'm not gonna there and pick apart your work to as these two would. But I definitely would want to something that's simple to follow, right? I want to look for relevance. If I'm hiring a mobile, for mobile product, I want to see that on the portfolio. So just something that's that's catchy and easy to follow, something that's looks fun and something that you enjoy doing. That's a big one for me.
So I saw when May did the show of hands earlier, we've got a few students here. We've got a few people who are looking for jobs. A lot of people maybe have just a few years of experience. Why don't we talk for a second, maybe switch gears and figure out any advice you have for people who don't have a lot of experience. If the description says I want 5+ years, 7 to 10 years of experience, should you just discard that and not even apply? Or I'd like to hear your thoughts for each of you. And for somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience, how do you beef that up a little bit and just get your foot in the door? Kirill?
I guess we're going this way, right? I should get used to it, right? I have this ready. Yeah, it's a great question, and I was a student, not kind of a long time ago, but I remember coming out of school and trying to get into work, and was face the same challenges. So, as a designer, I think you should do a few things that will help you. One, be active at school, do projects, whether it's your own projects, whether it's group projects. Like if you're a student of design and you're coming out of these schools, we don't have much to show, then it just tells me that you're not really excited about design. You don't have any personal projects, right? So that's one. Two, I think it would be useful to include somewhat of like a cover letter or something that can really tell the story why you are an amazing person for this position. So a little bit more personal, and cover letter really gives you an opportunity to tell additional, give yourself additional bonus points. And maybe go to a company that's kind of a larger size company, so that way you're not the only designer, right? Everyone's laughing, and I don't know why. Okay.
It's May's
Like, is that
icon,
me or
the gingerbread guy.
Are you laughing at my accent? Just kidding. Maybe go to a company that's larger in size that will have a team of 20 designers where they have the capacity to bring on board somebody who's young and train them.
Invest in their future.
Invest in their future. If it's like a startup that they're looking for a designer to like design something that they're gonna go and market tomorrow, probably not the best fit for you. But that's one advice. And definitely network. That's really, really important, as all of you know.
Carla, what do you think?
I'd say the same thing. Networking is really important. Make friends with people at design evenings. We have design night at Autodesk. You should come check it out. Internships are also very, very impressive. You get a lot of experience with internships. And as I said, even independent projects where you volunteer or you just have a great idea and you want to execute that idea on your own and put it on your portfolio. A great portfolio goes a long way.
Anything you want to add? Now that you have the microphone, you have time to think about something nobody's said before.
I did, didn't I?
What about a thank you note? Do they send out thank you notes afterward? Is that always good practice?
Yes, very important. Some of my managers wonder when they don't get thank you notes. And yet, this is a weird one. I had one manager get upset when he got a handwritten thank you note.
You got upset?
They thought it was weird. I thought they were weird. I thought my manager was weird. I think the whole idea, this is a big inside tip. Going through LinkedIn and networking and connecting with people of companies where you want to work and getting to know even other designers at companies where you want to work, maybe even doing an informational interview, saying, hey, can I meet you for coffee? Let's just sit down, talk about what it's like to work at Autodesk. How can I get in there? And then you've got a best friend. And that best friend or that person will then send your resume and your portfolio to the recruiter's email address. And you're not one of 100 applicants. You're one that comes to my email address. And I give those people a lot more attention.
Yeah, I'd like to explore that a little bit more. Bireel, what do you think about sending in cold resumes versus going in through somebody that maybe you know?
Yeah, definitely. At Salesforce, we value referrals, because it's somebody, not necessarily always for, the design skills, but person fit, culture fit is important too. So if we have a coworker that we love working with and they say, oh, I know this amazing person, he or she would be a great fit for Salesforce, we definitely pay attention to that. And maybe sometimes we go a little further with referrals, even if at first sight their resume or portfolio might not look as impressive as some other person that we are looking at. Networking is really important. One caution for LinkedIn: don't just send a LinkedIn request without writing any personal message, because I ignore them. People just send LinkedIn messages, and not a good idea. Because your intentions are not clear. But saying something like, hey, I'm really interested in opportunities at Salesforce. Can we have coffee so I can get some tips? That's perfect. And a lot of people will respond to that. Yeah, and one more thing is for new graduates, Salesforce has a separate track for students and anyone who is graduated in the last 12 months. It's called Future Force. So they go through a different hiring process where we don't necessarily pay too much attention to work experience. We have people who just have school projects and have not done anything else, and they still get a fair chance among their peers.
Good, Justin. What do you think? Tell us about connecting to people on either LinkedIn or Facebook, and is it easier to get in if you have an in, or do you guys accept cold resumes? And what's advice for folks who don't have a lot of experience? A lot of questions.
Actually,
there.
yeah, it's a lot of questions.
Just like 4 questions.
I'm going to wrap this up into one general thought that I think covers everything. One of the biggest things that I look for, probably the biggest thing that I look for, is proactivity. If you want to come work at Facebook, or if you want to come work at whatever company, I want to see someone that shows me that they want to do that. If that's mobile experience, they just start designing apps. Like, even if it's not real, even if it's not being coded, they just do it because they are the kind of person that just does that sort of thing. And that is really ethereal in a certain way, but I think everybody here probably understands that. And it's like, if you were a doctor, in your free time, you would design because you just can't help but make things. And those are the kind of people that we look for. And I think that's reflected in many ways, that proactivity, that you just care so much that you just really want to do this. Those are the people that usually grab our attention, because those are the people that are doing really interesting things. So we do get a lot of people through referrals. Obviously, that's the greatest way to get people. You have someone who knows them personally. But a lot of people get our attention by just making a cool app and designing something cool and putting it out there and saying hey, I made this thing, I think it's interesting. And they're just being proactive because they care and because they want to make things.
Cool. So why don't we open the floor to questions? If you have anything you want to ask our panel, we've got another 25 minutes or so. We got a question right up here in the front. In fact, we've got a wireless microphone right here. Here we go. All right. Hello. Hello. All right, Donna.
Hello. Oh, I was like, how do you know my name? Hi, everyone. I'm Donna. Thank you so much. A lot of things resonate with me. It lets me know I'm on the right path. My background is I really started in design about a year ago. Moved here from New York to start a design thinking fellowship for fighting poverty for low-income families. One of the hardest and most amazing experiences of my life. Since then, I've been proactively getting projects, working with nonprofits, really just trying to get my hands on whatever I can to explore the field, but I also feel like I'm getting a sense of what my strengths are, but I feel like a generalist at this point. Are there opportunities out there for journalists? I think design, I'm very intentional about everything I do, but I don't have specific UX or interaction skills, even though my hands are also dabbling in those projects.
So who wants to take that question? Specialist versus generalist?
Yeah. I'll go first. So actually at Facebook, we generally just we generally hire generalists. Our role is product design, and everybody has the same job title. Everybody's a product designer. And it's up to everybody to do visual design, interaction design, and product strategy. Everybody has to do all of those things. Not everybody's going to come in being amazing at all 3 of those skills, and we hope that someone's really good at one of them, and we can help sort of even them out and get roughly across the board even. But it's
Let's give it up for Justin.
Yes. At Salesforce too, we try not to hire too many narrow specialists. We try to hire for complementary skill sets. So in each team, there might be designers with strong visual design skills, prototyping skills, interaction design skills. So we look at the team composition more than anything else. Every product designer has one area that they are the strongest in, and if some extraordinary ones might have 2-3 areas that they're really strong in, but that's rare. But usually, like everyone can do a little bit of everything as long as they're open to trying, right? So,
What do you think, Carla?
I have a different opinion, a little bit.
A contrary opinion. I like this. It's going to be an argument, a debate.
So, what I'm noticing at Autodesk, what I have been noticing for the last couple of years, is if someone applies to a UX design position, and I see that they've had these titles as user researcher or visual designer, what happens to my managers? They question the desire and the passion. So while certainly for the whole UX life cycle, you do everything, right? And of course, it's great for you to develop those skills. I personally would say on your resume, pick a path and sort of direct your resume towards it a little bit. And it's okay that, let's say, you're a UX designer with visual design and research skills. Does that make sense? That being said, there's this new, I'm coming up with the new stuff. There's this new
Is
thing
this more
called,
the Who thing?
Yeah, no. There's this new thing called the UX unicorn. Have any of you heard of it?
Somebody who does everything?
Someone who really does everything and codes. That's the new secret sauce at Autodesk, and I'm hearing more and more of that. So things are changing.
Good. What do you think, Real?
I don't have much to add on this question, sorry, but I think targeting your resume would definitely help if you can kind of understand what the role is about and do something with your resume that kind of reflect that.
What about modifying your resume based on the job description? Do you guys,
Yeah,
do you guys all look for that, or I mean, is that something that is helpful for people to
Sure.
modify? Sure.
Yeah, I
moving
think
things up and down, because if maybe I did something that was user design a few jobs ago, or it was bullet point number 4, but now I want to make it bullet point number 1.
I'm a big fan of modifying your resume for a specific role. If you're applying for a position, you have to show passion that you really, really want to work there. And one way to show it is to make your resume personalized a little bit and to the job, right?
What about even going into the job description, which is normally in like bullet point format, and crafting bullets on your resume that address the individual job description points?
Yes, I think it's a great idea to do that. It's really easy for a recruiter to see that you're qualified for this position. I've seen a resume only once in my career, many years of looking at resumes, that it was brilliant. The guy applied for a job and he had our job description, and on the side he put his resume, and he literally you're looking for this, I have this. You're looking for this, I have this. You're looking for this, I have. It was brilliant.
So it makes it very easy for a recruiter.
It was just amazing.
Yeah,
it was just brilliant, and I've only seen it once. So maybe one of you can try it and see what happens.
Yeah. But I'll admit, it's a pain in the ass. If you're applying for 10 jobs, you got to have 10 versions of your resume and make sure you have the right version that
It's
you're sending
true.
in. So it's a lot of work. But the question is it worth it? So I think I hear you guys saying absolutely. It's targeted, and you want to get it in there. I think we have another question up here. Did you want
I
to
just
add
want
to
to
that?
add one thing. Don't plagiarize the
Don't.
job description. Do not use it word for word in your resume. I mean,
Change
it's kind
we're
of
looking
obvious.
forward to I have. Okay.
Make it a little different. It gets suspicious.
Okay. All right, we had another question somewhere back here. I think you have to press the button.
It should be green.
Just talk loud.
Okay, I don't need mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I came from a HCI program at Masters, and something there that was very super important was mentorship. And it's super important to me going into my first career. So I was wondering you mentioned Future Force, and that seems like a very mentor-focused program. Did any of the rest of you, or if you wanted to add to that, speak to what mentorship is like, the path into becoming a mentor yourself as well?
Who wants to take that one? Mentorship. Do you have mentorship programs? Do you have formalized mentorship programs at your company?
At Salesforce, we have some formalized mentorship program, company-wide, but not within the user experience team. That said, it is a very collaborative team. People work really closely together, and the more senior members of the team, the managers, always have time for the more junior members to give them advice, look at their work. a lot of times what we will do is instead of assigning every designer to a specific team or project, we will assign groups of designers. So there might be a lead and then a more junior designer working on the same project together, which really provides an opportunity to learn from the others. You would still own a part of that product, but the product areas are pretty big. So one person can't do all of it, and there will always be a lead designer who is overseeing the overall experience, and then a few other designers working on different areas of the product. So we kind of have informal mentorship built into the whole way we work.
We actually have a few programs that are actually kind of designed for this. One is internships for anybody that's currently in school.
Paid or unpaid?
Paid.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah.
Paid very well. And we actually just started a new program, and actually the first group that's going through it is actually going through it right now, which is called the Rotational Product Design Group. And rotational product design is actually, it comes from our product managers had the system for a while. And what happens is right after they graduate school, they come in, and instead of just jumping straight in and doing one project, their first year, every 4 months, they take on a new project. Or I'm sorry, every 3 months, they take on a new project. So they do 4 in a year. Each one is on a different team, and they have their choice. They can pick whatever project they want. They have a list of 40 projects that they can decide between. And they say, I want to tackle this first, and it's a chance to work with a new team, work with a new manager, work with entirely new designers. After 4 months or 3 months, they get a jump to a different one and say, I want to work on ads and pages instead of Messenger.
So it's a departmental rotation or a role-based? Are they doing the same role in different departments or different roles in different departments?
They're doing the same role in that we're all product designers and we all do the same thing. But you can take on projects. You could take on a project on roughly the same team. It's probably not a good idea because you want to get to know the company, but there's a lot of benefits to it. One of it is that you get to know the entire company. You get to see all these different teams, and before you take on a project for an entire year, you get to see, hey, I really like these people over here. I really like this content topic. And then in general, we have something called open allocation, which is a really fancy way of saying when you come to Facebook, you actually decide what project you want to work on. We don't assign you directly to something. We don't say, you're going to come in and you're going to work on this feature over here.
I want to work on the thumb.
Yeah. We're actually working on that. Again.
So while we're on the subject of Facebook and social media, and I know there's probably more questions out here, I'm going to derail us for 1 second. I hired a graphic designer a few years ago, and as I was going through this design process, I looked at a lot of different resumes, and you go on social media. This is the day and age we live in, and sometimes you see a great portfolio, and sometimes you see a Vegas weekend with a bunch of people in a limousine, whooping it up. So what's your advice? I'd like to hear actually the advice from the whole panel about how do you use social media to get your name out there and promote yourself and not do it in such a way where you're hurting yourself through some, give us some advice about social media.
Yeah. So I think context is really important. I think some people use things in different ways. Like some people use Twitter and they only care about following people and getting links and that sort of stuff, and that's fine. Like my Facebook, I keep very private. Like it's only for me and my friends. And if you want to reach out to me, reach out to me on Twitter. That's like the public stuff.
So there's no Vegas pictures of Justin that I could see right now.
There's no Vegas pictures of me entirely because I've never been.
That you know of.
But one thing that really jumps out at me when I do look at portfolios is that I do check and see if they have a Twitter, if they have a Facebook, and if it's public or not. And I guess I'm going to say this the nice way. It's kind of like the jerk test. I want to see if they're kind of a jerk on the internet, because that's actually a really easy way to find out culture fit. Are they the kind of person that just every time a new feature comes out on some app that they use or something from Apple or Google and they just complain constantly about it? I'm probably not going to enjoy talking with you, and I'm just not going to care. But that doesn't mean I look for anything in particular. I'm not looking for someone that posts a lot of links or someone that's incredibly funny or whatever. I mostly just care that people are real and I get a good understanding for just who they are as a person.
If you got to spend all these hours in a day with them, right? You want to make sure that there's a fit, right?
like getting a job at a company is kind of like dating. You both have to like each other.
Right.
Um, and so I'm very much doing that. Like I want to hire someone that I'm going to enjoy working with. And so if you look at my Twitter, it's just a bunch of just random jokes, but it's actually a pretty good sense for who I am as a person.
Okay.
And if you want to see my work, that work is available someplace else. And I think you just get a sense for people. One of the things I was going to say earlier is that we look for people that just have a voice, and that voice is just like very authentic. Like they just are who they are. And hopefully that's just, they have the maker personality, and they're just really excited to just come to work and just make things and do good work.
Good. Well, I'll throw it out there to anybody else. Okay, Xavier, what do you think? Social media, tips and tricks.
Yeah, I mean, for tech companies, most of them are pretty open-minded. I think, someone's pictures pouring champagne down their head, like during a bachelor party, that's fine. I think as long as I don't see I don't see the candidate being a troll, right? Harassing others, discrimination, illegal stuff. Those kinds of things are big, turnoffs. But
besides
you
that,
can be, whatever. You are going to have fun, outside of work. We have fun, with our coworkers after work. So, that's perfectly fine. So as long as, you're not doing something socially unacceptable, I think.
You're hired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think,
And,
Carla?
I decide on whether I would work with this person or not during the interview process. Like, that's when it comes out.
Good. What do you think, Carla? What Autodesk? What's their tolerance for, what are they looking for at social media?
It hasn't really come up. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think that interacting with that, if you're a candidate and you're really interested in one of Autodesk products, that if you've done your research and looked on our social media outlets or looked at our blogs or our user groups, I think that shows a lot of interest. So it's you interacting with us. I have run across some stuff in the past, and it's a little bit of a concern. So just be mindful of what you put out there. I mean, my biggest concern are things like personal blogs where you're kind of writing your deepest, darkest secrets. I've come across those. And sometimes you just, it's something you want to keep private.
So what about do you expect them to come to the interview with a deep knowledge of the company? Do you expect them to ask questions about the company? I mean, talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, do your research. Autodesk is a very known company, but before you're going to have your phone screen with the recruiter, get online, take a look around, have some questions, show your excitement, because if you don't know anything, then I feel like you're just spamming your resume.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kirill? Tips and tricks on social media, do's and don'ts. What do you think?
Yes, I actually look for those bachelor party pictures.
Because you want to hire that guy.
Exactly. So we're all human, guys. We all live digital print. We all have fun outside of work. It's the way we are. So I actually like to hire people who have social lives, who are fun people to not only work with, but spend time after work. So I definitely, not crazy party pictures, of course, but you don't have to hide things when you're having fun. But I do agree with Carla here that make sure that you pay attention to what's on your blog and things that you post around. I had a candidate that I went to his blog, and he had a posting how talking about recruiters, how dumb they are. And how he had this bad experience. He's like, this guy is so stupid. He's just like all these other recruiters. And guess what? I never even reached out to him. So
I would have brought him in. I would have brought him in for an interview, for a 3-hour interview, and made him cry.
Exactly. The who, what, and where interview. So yeah, but just use common sense, right? So that's all.
All right, let's open it up to the floor again. We've got about 5 more minutes. I know there's another question out there, right there in the back.
Hi, my name is Gabriella, and I'm a recent grad from Canada. And my question is about process. One of you mentioned that sometimes you just see pretty pictures, and it's just the final product. What are your tips for showing process?
Tips for showing the process. So who wants to tackle that? So I think maybe what you're asking is not just here's the finished product, but what did it take? What were the iterations? Maybe other versions. Here's the direction I didn't take. And just more of like the whole background.
Yeah,
Thoughts about that?
absolutely. The finished product, it's great, but it's okay if you show just one screenshot of it. What I want to see is, your photos of your hand-drawn sketches, or what the evolution of the design was. It might have started somewhere really icky, and gone to a great place. And really, that's really important to show process, that you're not coming up with some cool design, like in 1 minute. So one thing, we were talking about this Dribbble, right? There's an article out there about dribblization of portfolios. Like that's a very dangerous path. Like if you have a Dribbble account, make sure you also have a complimentary portfolio website where you're showing your process, because Dribbble has beautiful, mock-ups. And if I don't know what was the thought process that went to it, my assumption is you just, did some polished visual design and there's no real experience, interaction.
Yeah, it's like when you're in school, the teacher says, show your work, right?
Yeah.
You can give the math answer, but you have to show your work here. So it's
Yeah.
it's important for you to show your work, 'cause now we use that to get a sense for how did you approach the problem and a deeper understanding.
And, as you gain more experience, some companies, Salesforce, for example, when I first joined, the visual design was really boring. And you show that as your finished product, it doesn't look very sexy, but the thought process, the design process, that's the interesting part. Because, ultimately for enterprise software, the way the end product looks might not be, within 100% of your control. So the process is really important.
All right, so we got 2 minutes left. How about just closing thoughts from the panel here? I think we're going to wind up, May, right? 2 minutes, and then we're going to do some networking. How about just let's go round robin and give one more pass with some closing thoughts. One piece of information maybe you wanted to share, maybe something from your own interviewing experience, maybe even share like the worst candidate, the worst resume, something, just to close off the night. Justin, you're up.
Wow, on the spot.
Should we come back to you?
No, actually, the thing I said earlier about just being your authentic self, I think, is the most important thing. All things aside, we've just talked about resumes, and we've talked about portfolios, and we've talked about what you look like on social media and everything. And I can find a million examples at Facebook of people that have defied every expectation that was set here. And I think the thing that kind of ties it all together, the rug that ties the room together, if you will, that everybody is just a really smart person and they really care about what they do. And no matter what sort of process you go through, to get there, whatever the evolution you have of you is just going to come out as soon as I sit down and talk to you. As soon as I sit down and talk to you, I'm going to understand pretty soon if you're just a smart person that really cares about your work and has a lot of potential. And that's ultimately the only thing I really care about, is that you really care about your work, you can do good work, you can contribute to the team, you're proactive, you care.
You can't fake passion.
You can't fake passion.
All right, good. Betty?
I agree with all those points. So maybe I'll tell two things about not to be a bad candidate. One of them is I had one candidate tell me, well, I don't even know if I want to work for Salesforce. Can you tell me why I should? And I was like, wait, why are you wasting my time if you don't want to work for Salesforce? So make sure that, you apply. I mean, it's, again, related to passion, right? Don't apply for jobs that you're not interested in. Or do the research, before the interview process and decide whether that might be an interesting thing. And even if you're not 100% sure, don't tell it to the hiring people because they won't hire you.
Do not tell it to the hiring manager.
Other thing is, once you've gotten a job offer and you say, okay, I'm signing this, and, make a promise that you're starting in 2 months, don't bail out the week before you start. We've
good
had
points.
2 candidates do that. that's a really bad thing to do.
And
So
it gets around because
It does get
lots of
around,
people are connected
yeah.
to each other on social networks. And so,
Yes.
hey, what do you think about this candidate? Oh, yeah, we made them an offer. And the
And-
day before they were supposed to
Yeah.
get started, they got hired somewhere
Like
else.
that. So we had two candidates do it. Frankly, one of them was a new college graduate, and we were like, okay, like this person is inexperienced, and we gave a pass. But like once you had a few years of experience, one of them had over 15 years of experience under her belt. Like she's not getting a job again at Salesforce. You know.
So she burned that bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the really important thing because it's it's like the dating process. You don't want to break the other person's heart.
I hear you. Been there. Carla, break our hearts.
I would say practice your portfolio presentation with a friend or a couple of friends and get feedback, solicit feedback. I've seen so many candidates with beautiful resumes and beautiful portfolios, and they make it through the first couple phone screens, and they come in and they bomb in the portfolio presentation. They either give too much detail or they ramble on. Make it like a fairy tale story that you're delivering to a group of people. Make it as beautiful as your work.
Good advice. Thank you.